Hey guys, so we got some of the new intro cards from the new set, and what is here is my updated version of the deck I had been playing before, and had a pretty good time with it. It was a Paladins deck with some Valkyrie themes. I eased back a bit on the Valkyries. I noticed sometimes I didn't have enough Paladins, or maybe not enough removal or whatever, but I've been enjoying this list. It's pretty solid, lots of life gain. If you play against any sort of aggro deck, very easy to stabilize with this or take control of the board. Sometimes you can struggle with not having enough aggression against like a mill player, but pretty solid list. Have a pretty decent win rate with it, and I recommend it. We're using Anointer of the Faithful. This is one of the key cards of the deck. It lets you give a paladin bond, and this lets you basically combo out from the start. Sometimes you have hands where you'll save Anointer and play it on like turn 3 or 4, so you can dump 2 paladins into play at once and they can't kill both. Or if this Anointer lives, it tends to be pretty solid. Hojan is a great card to buff with it, and Copperhall Paladin, as these guys will both give you lands if you play them with Anointer in play. And ramping power is pretty key here. We've got some good bombs to get into. Everything having lifesteal is helpful as well, and one of the reasons we don't really lose to aggro very often. But that aside, we have a lot of ramping going on here and a lot of lifesteal. And continuing on, Icaria. This was 4. I ended up just doing a split with Kodosh of Angle, because I found a lot of the times Icaria would just die, but you still want to have a few of her. Being able to ramp lands is pretty valuable. While Kodosh guarantees you getting this make sure you get the extra Justice Sigil, Icaria, you know, if she's ever at 6, very solid threat in and of herself, has endurance, and being able to buff other Valkyries is nice, and ramping is nice too. Also, since Icaria is green, well, everything in this deck is green, or Justice Kellard, and that's because in our sideboard we play Svetya. Might be pronouncing that wrong, but I think it's Svetya. She will buff every Justice unit and give them mages, so I don't need to tell you that a 10-9 with Aegis and Endurance is pretty crazy. So, yep, just keep that in mind as we're going through, that some of these cards are even better just because of Svetya. We're playing a split of these 2 merchants. Both are able to grab just about everything. Hidden Road is the only one that can grab Burglarize, but that's fine. This is the only really relic hate you can have, short of playing colorless cards. So we kinda need to include that. There's a few relics you just have to deal with. Moving along, Roland is the new guy here. This guy's a freaking powerhouse. Decay is just a great ability. Endurance makes him not permafrostable, which is insane. And if you ever untap with them and they've got creatures in play, we're playing removal, so we can start to take over the game, and it makes it so that some of the go wide strategies can't just suicide into your board as well, because then next turn you'll have a bigger Roland and another blocker, or it can very quickly compound out of control. I'd play 4, but he's a pretty big turn to seed target, so I just went down to 3. But he's just crazy. It might be correct just to play 4 just because, but whatever, I'm trying 3 for now. Macdo, he is Macdo. I'm only playing 1. We were talking about Turn to Seed, now's a good time to mention it. For all of our threats, we have them pretty diversified, because Turn to Siege just really brutal, and drawing a seed instead of like an actual card in the late game is bad. So Macdo is one of the most obvious targets ever for a Turn to Seed, and so we just play 1, and he's fine when you draw him. He's annoying to deal with, and we don't really need more than that. Sadidi is insane. Having Warp is just crazy. I was originally playing 4, but I kept getting blown out by Turn to Seed, so now it's 2. I could see going back up to 3, though. The Curse is just amazing. Warp is amazing, and having the card draw is pretty good. So, decent card. To loot, this man just takes over the board. There's a few decks that slaughter us, but if you can hit a to loot, it actually just ends them, like, on the spot. Lots of go wide strategies. I believe it's Amaran Charger. I could be butchering its name, but there's a card in Time that puts a bunch of wasps into your deck, and this is one of the most efficient ways of dealing with those, because then all you have to do is attack, and now there's 0/1s with Deadly, so pretty helpful there. And just in general, ramping you the rest of the way to 9 and potentially 12, and you'll see why I'm saying that in a sec here. We've got Zolta Loyalist. This is just another bomb. Potentially should be running more of these, but I don't know what to cut. And against some of the Harsh Roll decks, sometimes Harsh Roll comes down before you can even attack with them. And against some of the aggro decks, you don't really have time to be attacking, because they're just blowing up everything you play, and they might kill you before he comes out. So that's why we're just playing 1. But he can be really good if you're ever on the offense, so that's why he's here. Being 3 power too lets you get ahead on the board early, and then later on capitalize on that. Relia, she's just an undervalued card by many. We're only playing 1, but so she'll make some hands go from really mediocre to amazing, and also just double damage, endurance, and invulnerable to damage. There's certain decks that just can't deal with Relia. Anything like Turn to Seed or any kill spell will deal with her, but she can't be permafrosted, she can't be torched, well, you can torch her, it just doesn't do anything. And yeah, so pretty solid card here. If you ever give her Aegis with Svetya, your opponent's going to be in trouble. Next up, we're playing a lot of weapons as removal here. Vanquisher's Blade's just a solid card. There's a few decks that completely rely on them bringing stuff back from the void. So having Vanquisher's Blade to stop that is helpful. And the kill spell's nice too. Vanquish has always been a pretty solid card. We can also just throw this on Hojan or Copperhall Paladin and get power. Or I've even had times where I just throw it down to get 2 extra damage. Or pump up a lifesteal minion to get it out of Jack range or stabilize or whatever. Pale Rider's Timepiece. Even though we're a base Justice deck, by the time we want to be playing this, we usually have hit 4 of these. Especially since we're constantly ripping Justice Sigils out of our deck with some of the other cards. And when you're ready to play this, it's just one of the best answers to cards like Ikaria. And the lifesteal's huge. Being able to give it evasion and deadly's nice as well. So all of these abilities are relevant. The power and toughness boost is nice as well. And it's a good way to deal with annoying Aegis threats while also building up a threat of your own, which is why I like this card. Martyr's Chains, we just have a lot of ramp, like, not even usually on purpose, just like in the process of playing some of our cards and executing our strategy, we hit a lot of ramp. So early on, you made that just shuffle this back to your market with your merchants, but later on, Martyr's Chains will end the game if it's not dealt with quickly, and if you've got any sort of board. So solid there. Silverblade Intrusion. This is part of the reason we're Mono Justice. If you can get this online on like turn 3 or 4, 1 power, make a 3/3 with Flying Revenge, and add 1 to your hand is insane value. And sometimes it can even, when timed, if you get lucky and you time it well, it can be a 3-for-1, a 4-for-1, a 5-for-1, and then, you know, your revenge guys start coming back, and it's even more. So this card just does so much, and it's only 1 power. One interesting thing to note is with Kodosh of Angle, we can actually get more, like, even though every land in our deck advances the Justice strategy, Kodosh of Angle can actually let you get there a turn earlier, so keep that in mind. Cast into Shadow and Slay, they're just a removal of choice. Against like black-red aggro, this card's insane. Just popping 2 of their like 2 or 3 drops, or hitting like a Jack and a Milos, or sometimes they're playing dragons, so being able to pop like Jack and a dragon's crazy. Sometimes it just does nothing, but you can send it to your market then. And being able to hit curses and having game against curses is nice as well. So, good card. Slay. Yeah, this is just a boring card. No point talking about it. 3 power, kill something. No questions asked. And then our power's skewed. We're playing 27 power. It's up to you if you want to run a different variation here. I was playing Reclaim instead of 2 Reclaims instead of the 26th and 27th power. But I found a lot of the times I never wanted to take the time to cast it, and curving out was pretty important, like with threats. So I ended up just turning those into Justice Sigils, and that's how we ended up here. In our market, we've got Edict of Kodosh. Being able to silence is pretty nice, and the kill spell is obviously relevant in most matchups. Pristine Light, this is our board wipe. Sometimes it can be one-sided too, which is nice, and onslaughting your guys back to your hand lets you double up value from like Sadidi or your merchants or whatever. Burglarize, I talked about this, but there's relics we just have to deal with. Stealing them is actually better than killing them in some of these matchups. For example, there's the Armory list that plays that 7 power, double its power and toughness, and eventually they might have it at like 6/6, then a 12/12, then a 24/24. And if you steal it when it's a 24, like if you just stall them out, you don't want to play this right away. You want to let them invest a lot into it, because if you can get it up to a 24/24 and steal it and play it in 1 turn, that'll probably just kill them. So, pretty decent there. Sometimes you're playing against like a Mask of Torment deck, and they have a mask that's like powered up a bunch, and you can just steal that. And we're playing so much lifesteal, you can sometimes be a better Mask of Torment deck than they are, which is fun. Or, there's the mill deck as well, where you can take their milling card, and I've yet to mill anyone. Mill is one of our bad matchups, but I imagine there's a world where we have a decent board, and we're able to fill their void pretty heavily, so that could be something. If anyone's playing any off-meta decks or something like us with Martyr's Chains and Pits, those are also excellent cards to be stealing. Regent's Tomb, this is just your go-to card. If you're playing these Kellers, you're probably playing this card. This is how we're able to deal with control decks. If they're not pressuring you on the board, this just does everything you want it to be doing. Helps you hit your land drops, picks whatever their best card is out of their hand, gives something revenge, and antheming your board. If you're ever able to keep it on board longer than that, not that you even need to, but you'll get Elias, and that's helpful as well. Usually it'll get dealt with somewhat quickly, but if you're able to defend it, or they just don't have any way to deal with it, you get a ton of value out of this. And even in aggro matchups, sometimes it's still the go-to card, because being able to anthem all of your lifesteal minions is huge. And you can race them. I already talked about Svetya, but she's a bomb. She's part of the reason we're playing 6 merchants, because then we can use our first merchant to get something to get us to the late game, and then the second one is used for Svetya. Or just the first one's used on Svetya. You want to get her slammed down as quickly as possible in mid-range matchups or control matchups. She's how we win the game, typically. Yeah, because Harsh Roll's just obnoxious to deal with, so now they have to 2-for-1 themselves every time they deal with every single one of our minions. So, solid card there. One card I'd potentially like to add, and I've been considering, is... We'll check it out over here. I don't know how I didn't notice this card before, but talk about it now, and if you play this deck, you might consider running it. He's not popping up for me. I'll just cheat a little here. Is he a 4-drop? Here he is. Purge Driver. Silence and kill a multi-faction enemy unit, and it's a 3/2. So this is a card we potentially should be playing. I've noticed at this point in the game, though, we're playing a lot of 4-drops, and I really wasn't sure what to cut. But being able to kill stuff is nice. Maybe we can make room for it now just to test it out. We can cut some of our flex cards and try it out, but just take a look at that. And yeah, just keep this guy in mind. I'm gonna run him here. Also keep those flex cards I cut in mind. You can really... The core of the deck is Copperhall Paladin, Ojan, and Anointer of the Faithful, and then marketing Svetya, and whatever else you want to play instead. Like their other paladins are nice to add, but you don't really need them. You can do whatever else you want with the rest of the deck, but the core of just putting weapons on Copperhall Paladin, Hojan, and Anointer is amazing. So keep that in mind. Anyway, let's jump into some games. Hand's close, but we can do better. It's also bad, but I don't want to mulligan down this 6. So we'll just keep this. Actually, this hand's a little better than the other, because we have the opportunity to maybe turn 3 Copperhall here. Or not.
Send a message.
Taking some damage here, but not too much pressure on us yet.
Now it's my turn.
Take up arms.
Now it's my turn.
If we decimate now, we might be in trouble later.
Take up arms.
Welcome, welcome.
Go for a pristine light. Try and trade here.
Now it's my
Well.
turn.
We'll see what happens.
The battlefield awaits.
I think that went pretty well for us.
We'll blaze a path.
Is in our market.
Only the best for you.
Yeah, we'll grab the timepiece back. Use it to close out the game here.
Never stop, never break.
You buying or not?
No escape.
Lifesteal comboed with removal is just so good against aggro.
Which one of you will shoot? I will have justice.
Purge Driver is pretty good here too.
For song!
Wonder if maybe we shouldn't be playing 4 Purge Drivers.
Now it's my turn.
Huh. That was a good draw. Half of our deck. Godash Vangle's pretty good when combined with Silverblade Intrusion. Have to keep that in mind for future iterations of this deck if we want to play more.
Blink and you'll miss it. Our wings and will are unbreakable.
Ramping hard.
Face judgment.
We draw a land next turn, we'll have a pretty good combo. Even if we don't, we will have a good combo.
Our magic is unbroken.
So yeah, we
Bound by our own.
bond here. Play this.
Never break. A fine battle.
Although, I suppose we didn't need the land for the combo.
Take up arms.
Now we can actually trade with a 6/6.
Our magic is unbroken. What do we have here?
Treasure for the taking. Treasure for the taking.
If we kill this, he'll drop down to 11 power. And if we use both, he'll drop down to 10.
Welcome, welcome.
I think we want information here.
No escape! No escape! Justice!
Interesting. I don't think keeping it helps us that much. Actually, I think him killing it was probably a mistake. Because otherwise we would have drawn him cards. I'm willing to bet he's not playing that much removal. Oh, crap on his board. Yeah, we want more power than that. Rather draw something else.
Kodash watches over us.
The battlefield awaits!
I'll save this. This card's pretty good in the matchup.
The battlefield awaits!
I think I'd actually rather cast this here, though, than this guy.
You choose this fate.
The battlefield awaits!
We're gonna get Sididi's curse on board now.
Fight back, you coward!
Now is the time to do that.
Touch of shadow.
You buying or not?
We'll go ahead and play Opera Hall Paladin here. So we can vanquish his blade next turn.
You made it personal.
This also makes it so... Oh wow, he didn't attack there. We'll kill this. And yeah, I'm just gonna keep hanging out. That's a good draw.
Our wings and will are unbreakable! Face judgment.
We don't mind trading here. Actually, we do. A good blocker. We just want to make his attacks pretty terrible, so he can get more curse value.
best for you.
We'll swap out Purge Driver here.
You chose this fate.
We can actually kill off our other Valkyrie. We can pump it.
Embrace the shadow. Meet your end.
Peace. Peace for all of Kosu.
You buying or not?
Ooh. That's a spicy one.
For Kosu! My people need me.
Take up, run, cowards. You cannot hide.
Oh. Well. That'll do it. That will do it.